first read the bio of one of my very good friends, Karen England. Karen and I have been friends for many, many years. We travel the country together, working on legislation, speaking, conferences, learning whatever it is we need to learn about how to be a good sharer of information, to understand policy. And she and I have just been partners in all of this. And I will say this about Karen. I don't think that there is anyone in the state of California that has more knowledge about policy, about school districts, about activism than Karen England. And I know because I know a lot of these people. So let me read her bio to you. Karen is a self-taught kitchen table activist, executive director of California-based Capital Resource Institute, and founder and director of Nevada Family Alliance. Karen has a long history of mobilizing citizens at rallies and school board meetings and at state legislatures. Today, she leads a fight to expose and eliminate progressive ideologies in the classroom. This includes CRT, critical race theory, SEL, social emotional learning, and graphic sexual education. She is an effective leader in reclaiming parental rights at the school district level and is passionate about sharing her decades of knowledge. Karen has been featured on various media outlets, including the Laura Ingraham Show, the O'Reilly Factor, Tucker Carlson Tonight, the San Francisco Chronicle, and Fox News, to name a few. She has long been a coveted speaker among conservative crowds across the state of California and Nevada due to her passion and engaging conversational personality. That's all very true. So please, before Karen comes up, I want you to take a listen to this and we'll get started. Thank you.
Any classroom should have a camera. Now, you know, this is the kind of out-of-the-box thinking that is very, very important. This is the kind of going on offense tactic that really is a game changer. Parents have every right to know what their children are being taught. It shouldn't be guesswork. Taxpayers have every right to know what's going on in the classrooms that they're paying for. We taxpayers, parents or otherwise, are paying for everything related to the government schools. They're government schools, public schools. Now, in many cases, we have cameras in the classroom, cameras in the courtroom, not all, but many, to see what's taking place in the courtroom. Courtrooms are supposed to be public. We don't have secret trials in this country. Well, why do we have secret classrooms in this country? Why do we have secret classrooms in this country? So I would recommend to the parents' organizations in Loudoun County and other counties in this country, you should take up this cause. You want to know, we want to know, we, the people, what's being taught in these classrooms.
Okay. Ooh, let's see. Ooh. Okay, obviously my hair's different. There we go. Okay. Well, thank you. And thank you, Gina. I will pay you later for all the nice things she said that I wrote and sent her and say these nice things about me so I sound good. So I want to say I love coming back to Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills. I have an incredible amount of admiration and respect for Pastor Jack, for the ministry that Gina leads, for her team that faithfully leads it, and for their obedience, even when other churches are backing down or padlocking their doors because of COVID. The leadership and obedience of this team is amazing and inspiring. And I wish we had more pastors and more congregations, because you guys are a congregation of action. You understand that your faith is more than just on Sunday, but that we are supposed to get out there and affect our culture. And I have an incredible amount of respect for all of you as well. So cameras in the classroom, I want to talk a little bit about how it came about, answer some of the questions that I know many of you have, because I encounter them every time I talk about this issue. But why cameras in the classroom? You know, every day we're seeing a different story. of something going on in a classroom, and the child comes home and shares with the parent, and the parent is going to call up the school, try and talk to the teacher or administrator, and more often than not, they're told, oh, your fifth grader just kind of misunderstood things. But then the more you go find out what went on, the more you realize, no, your fifth grader certainly understood what was going on. And you know, at Capital Resource Institute, we like to say what happens in California doesn't stay in California. And it's so true. I recently have relocated to Tennessee, and as Gina and I were both going through legislation this afternoon, both of states that amended really crazy things, you'd be shocked what Republicans are doing in the state of Tennessee on taking away parental rights. It doesn't stay in California. And so we need to be shouting that from the rooftops. These stories that I'm going to share are a mixture from all over the United States. But I believe cameras in the classroom right now is the only and most important thing that when we take over the school boards after this election, that we need to get done. And I think it's important to stop the political indoctrination, hold administrators accountable, and I'll talk about upholding our good teachers, keeping our teachers safe in the classroom with what's going on, and to really be able to resolve some of this stuff. I think it will be the best thing for school choice to expose what's actually going on in the classroom. So I think everybody kind of understands. So I'm going to talk a little bit about a model policy, and you can find our model policy on our website, camerasintheclassroom.org. So this policy is written for you to take to your local school board, and it's on there, and you can print it, and I want you to know that I'm available at any time. Contact our organization, and I will walk through it with you. We wrote it in a way for local control, and we tried to address all of the questions. You know, we spent quite a bit of time going back and forth on, you know, what might be some concerns and questions, and we laid it out. But it can be modified. And so depending on, I'm a believer in local control, what your local community wants. What San Francisco might want might be totally different than Chino Valley Unified. And so it's important that you keep that in mind when you read it. So one of the most common questions I get is, oh my goodness, privacy. I don't want everyone seeing my child on the TV. Couple of things. Now, we have written this so that there are two things the way it's written. It's written so that the only time someone is viewing the video is when there is a disagreement on an incident about what went on in the classroom, and that's when the parent goes to the principal, and the principal calls the parent and the teacher in. Now, and they view it. And the model policy talks about, you know, how you do that, how many days you have for a complaint, how long they're supposed to keep the video. All of those can be adjusted for the local community, but we really want people to know our goal isn't to have everybody on the Zoom meeting watching everybody. Our model policy actually suggests that you blur everybody else out so that other students aren't seen. But again, that is up to the local community. I've talked to parents that say we want to log onto a portal and watch it real time. And that may be something that a local community wants to do. But that is really up to the local community. The other common question we get is about, will cameras in the classroom hurt good teachers? And I just want to say a couple of things about that. I am thankful, really thankful for our Christian teachers that's where our Christian teachers should be, in the classroom teaching. But our Christian teachers are following the law, so I don't see an area where they would get in trouble. As a matter of fact, I think it protects them, because answers to organic questions, which is what the left uses a lot. Oh, well, they asked me about same-sex marriage, so I had to tell them about, you know, everything under the sun. The other words I've said here on stage at Calvary Chapel before. If a student asks a teacher something and she answers a question about her faith, she's protected. We at Capital Resource Institute, as well as Real Impact and Calvary Chapel and Pastor Jack, have been adamant about making sure our teachers know what their religious rights are and their religious freedoms are. And so they know, and we're allied with Alliance Defending Freedom and other groups that we can call on if a teacher gets in trouble for following the law. So I don't see how this is really going to hurt teachers. We also, in our model draft policy, had put in there that this cannot be used for evaluations unless it's about an incident of safety, like the teacher was physically violent. And I think we would all agree that then it should be used as evidence in that situation. So on our website, we have more frequently asked questions, and we have our model policy. But again, I want you to know that you should be able to adjust that. I really do believe in local control, and I will help reword things. I can work with your school board members to draft that policy. So this is one, and this was actually from New York. Elementary school teacher tells students to select their oppressive identities. We see this every day. This is a California one. These are all within the last 6 months. A third grade teacher in Cupertino hosted a lesson in which students were required to identify aspects of their identity that were either privileged or oppressed. And tonight's kind of a short night, so I couldn't get into intersectionality and how all of that works, but it's crazy. And it really would, it's too much to even comprehend. Also, did anyone see, there was the story, and I think it was Texas, where they did the third graders did the gay pride march through the school this week. Texas. What happens in California doesn't stay in California. They are not waiting for laws. In these red states, they're going in through the side door. So I want to tell you kind of what really led up to cameras in the classroom. And these are headlines. How many of you remember the story of the kindergarten coming out transition party that Rockland Academy, the parent-friendly school, charter school, had in Rockland, California? Well, these are a few headlines of what took place. And what happened was, 2 days before graduation of kindergarten, the little boy brought in 2 books, I Am Jazz and the red or the blue crayon. And it was read to the students, and he went into the restroom, which in a kindergarten classroom is in that room, changed into a dress, changed his shoes, came out, and the teacher announced his new name, which was a girl's name. And it was a day or two before some parents figured it out. And the first one that figured it out, she now lives in Texas. She ended up moving. Her little girl was in the bathtub, and as she was looking, as the water was draining, you know how they've got that silver little thing right there? Her hair was slicked back, and she started crying, thinking she had become a boy. She was like, Mommy, I've become a boy. And, you know, sometimes the left would laugh at that and laugh at her, but I was watching America's Funniest Videos with our granddaughters 2 days ago. And they had a little boy, and the same thing. He, you know, their imagination just goes crazy. He got out of the bathtub, and I don't know if you guys watch America's Funniest Videos, but he was all wrinkly, and he was 4, started bawling, I'm getting old, I'm an old man. That's how kids process things, and that's why parents are so important when they have to process this. So they talked about this, but then what led to even more, and this was my big Tucker Carlson event, was the next year when a student came back to school that had known him, and the mom prepped this little girl to say, when you go see him, call him this name, and I really want you, he's had a tough summer, be nice to him. She runs up and accidentally at recess, because they were in different classes in the first grade, says his old name. She was reprimanded for calling him the wrong name right there on the playground. Then she gets called out of class. This is a first grader. Called out of class, sent to the principal's office to make sure she wasn't bullying and that it wasn't intentional. Now, how many of us run into someone that just got married and we are adults and we call them their old name, or our teacher? This is a first grader. Now, when all of this was going on and it erupted, the school lied and lied and lied for months. And these poor parents that were trying to fight it, even the churches weren't standing behind them. Thank the Lord for John Jackson, the president of William Jessup, because he was quite helpful and supportive. But even the local community, because they thought these parents were just attacking the school. It was just a water day. That's why he changed. What are you talking about? This couldn't happen in Rockland. About 4 months later, when I ended up getting the FOIA, the Freedom of Information Act, you're allowed to ask for public records. And so I did that. And on a Friday night, I got 8,000 pages from Rockland. And so like all geeky nerds like me, I stayed up all Friday night going through the public records request. Everything was in there. They knew the book was coming in. So everything they were telling the community was a lie. But the story's long gone by the time you can get that information out there. And these families that all had to leave the school and that, were called bigots and haters, and their own community said, why would you do this to our charter school? Why would you say these things? If cameras were in that classroom, the truth would be out. And I would argue what went on wouldn't have gone on. So what brought us to the exact cameras in the classroom? And I'm trying to make the point that what happens in California doesn't stay in California. I love school board meetings. I like to stay up late with rowdy crowds and listen about dry milk, liquid milk, and then they get to our issues. So I'm at a school board meeting. We are dealing with this issue in Reno, Nevada, which is more of a red-purple county. It's a pretty conservative area. And there was a fifth grader who they gave this, it was an adult test on politics, which for a lot of reasons that violated a lot of laws, including a federal law. Told the kids, hey, don't, when the parents called, they said this did not happen. Well, it happened to be twins that were in the class. So the next day they come back, and as the teacher is kind of reprimanding whoever told, knowing who told, then told them not to tell. Again, CRI is very careful to back up our stories before we go out and I say something publicly. I talk to the parents. I talk to different children. That's what's going on in the classroom. So that's when we did a press release, and I called on cameras in the classroom. Mark Levin picked it up. Everybody started picking it up. We went out and did some really, really good polling. We did some polling on CRT, how people felt, how parents in the community felt about gender identity being taught, political ideology, and the most important one was cameras in the classroom. And I was pleasantly surprised when our numbers came back. So a total of 71% of Nevadans support cameras in the classroom. And the number for opposing political ideology is even higher. But don't believe just Nevada. These are the numbers from California. Now, we used a very reputable, that campaigns use, firm out of Arizona. 64.1% of Californians. There's no reason why we shouldn't, when we turn these school boards over, be taking this policy to those new school boards. And when they're running for office, demand that they commit to bringing this up. One of the great things that you guys have in California, not only do you get to speak at your school board meetings, but you have an education code that says you, a member of the public, can place an item on the school board agenda and they have to bring it up. What you probably don't know, and I didn't know when I moved there, in Tennessee, the law just says you're allowed to go to the school board meeting. The district I live in, they hadn't let anyone speak for 3 years. A bunch of parents really threw a fit. So now, if the attorney approves it, one time a month, you get to stand there, and that's it. It's the most bizarre thing. But you guys are able to put this policy on an agenda. So you should do that. And I want to say, for those of you that know polling or listening out there, the crosstabs, which kind of goes deeper, like how many Democrats, Republicans, all across the board, ethnicities, we're all in support of cameras in the classroom. These are some of the states that, after we called for cameras in the classroom and Mark Levin and then everybody picked it up, have introduced legislation this year, and we will shortly get that up on our website so you can see the legislation if you want to model your policy after it. We've got FAQs up there that hopefully will answer every question you might have. Is it legal? Who gets to view it? So I think we've kind of covered our bases with everything that goes on there. And then we have two things. On our website, both capitalresource.org and camerasintheclassroom.org, we have two things. We have a physical incident report that you can fill out, upload pictures or documents of an incident that went on in the classroom. And Gina talked about the issues that I'm tackling. A new one that is not on my bio is porn and porn in the classroom and access to porn that our boys are getting. Well, our boys and girls are getting access through the schools, both in curriculum and at the library. So we want to hear stories about that. We also have a 1-888 number for you to call and leave a message, and we will have a staff person call you back, find out what happened, do our own investigation. Maybe we will do a public records request. You know, we need to get all of our facts before we do anything. But we want you guys to have a place to go when this happens. So many parents are told, you're the only one. Oh, most people don't complain about this. I can't tell you how often I hear that, and a parent will come to me. I'm like, that's what they say all the time. And it's frustrating. So take down that number. We will have that up on our website. We will have it in social media. Share it with your friends and family. So often parents feel alone. We need to band together. There is strength and courage in numbers. And so it's important that we lock arms with each other, stand with each other as we reclaim our parental rights and reclaim our schools. And having said that, I'm going to end with this.
Please leave your message after the tone.
Hi, Mrs. Wagner. Is it true that all of your students were told to state their pronouns, gender, and sexual orientation in class today? I'd really like to talk. Can you please give me a call?
Hello, Mr. Phillips. Yeah, my son Brandon told me today that you started your class by having students apologize for systemic racism. Is this true? Please call me back.
Hello, Miss Reynolds. I'm calling because I'd like to know why my daughter came and told me to check my privilege. Can you please explain to me what you are teaching these children?
Well, thank you, Karen. Let's give her a hand.